Hey guys, Stealth here. In this video looking at the REDFOR coastal support ships. Now you can see that there are not a lot of ships in here, so I also brought the Muna in to briefly discuss this unit. It is the supply ship for the Russians, or I should say for REDFOR as a whole. It carries a lot of supplies, 15,000 points of it, and you get quite a few of these. You get actually, for one card, you get more supplies than you get for a fob. So supply-wise, they are very, very effective. They do have some armor, so they can, if they really have to, take a hit. But I would rather you keep them safe, because they don't have any sea whiz, they don't have any stealth, they are pretty slow at 14 knots. So keep in mind that these specs say that this thing needs to be defended. And that's exactly what you need to do with your other ships. So if you want to bring in one of these, make sure that your route towards your own fleet is safe, or you're going to have a mighty fireball over the water. Now, let's have a look at the Chong-Ju. The Chong-Ju and the Shmel are somewhat different, but the Chong-Ju has a main gun. Now, if you ask me, this looks like the gun turret from, I think, a T-34-85, the D-70. It fires at a 2800 meter range, which means that it is quite effective at taking out armor at range. Of course, it only has 4 HE power, so it's not that good versus armor. But let's say you want to target a vehicle with 2800 meter range, you can, unless that vehicle is also packing ATGMs. Now, most of the time you will be able to kill that ATGM carrier faster than it will be able to kill you. Especially since the rate of fire for these things is, well, it's okay, it's 7 rounds a minute. No, actually I'm going to take that back. You cannot take down an ATGM carrier. You're probably going to take down more hits from that thing and more damage than you can do to it, especially since the accuracy on this thing is bad. So, what do you use this thing for? Mostly this MLRS battery. You can see that it's mounted right here. And this MLRS battery is on a swivel, so you can target all sides around this ship. It has a 17.5 kilometer range, and a salvo, I believe, consists of 40 missiles or 40 rockets. That means that you can use these as water artillery or offshore artillery. They do 7 HE power. And after they've fired, they take somewhere between 1 and 2 minutes to rearm. So before they can actually fire again, you're going to be waiting anywhere between 1 and 5 minutes, depending on how panicked the unit is, of course. Now, it also has some medium machine guns, which do not carry any AP power. They do carry HE. These things are mostly used against helicopters, because that's where they have the best range against. If you're using these things at ground range, be very careful, because pretty much anything can hit you at a range greater than 1400. The ships are not very strengthy, not very strong I should say. 40 points is not that good. The optics on them though is good. And if you combine the amount of ammo that it carries with also having a main gun, very good optics, and even some armor, means that for 80 points it can be a very effective unit if you use it correctly. So don't use this missile battery to go after tanks, for example, because that is just not going to be effective. Using it against lightly armored vehicles, using it against infantry is a much better use of your resources. These things have, like all coastal support ships, the river tag, so that means that they are river classed sailing. They can go up rivers and they cannot be targeted by anti-ship missiles. That's why these things don't need any close-in weapon systems. They don't need the defense against missiles. And that means that these things can get in pretty close to another ship if they really have to. But again, I wouldn't recommend it, because the rate of fire on this thing is just atrocious with only 7 rounds a minute. And the armor on it is not good, combined with a low strength. It means that these things are pretty much only used as artillery batteries. Now the Shmel looks a bit similar, at least spec-wise. The gun on this thing has even lower range, only 1750. It cannot defend itself against airplanes and helicopters with this gun. Its accuracy is a bit better than the D-70 gun that we saw on the Chong-Ju. It does have a stabilizer, and the stabilizer is slightly better than the Chong-Ju. But still, this ship is mostly meant to use this artillery battery. This MLRS has a range of 28 kilometers, which means that you can just casually have this thing sitting back near your naval spawn and fire at the other side of the map. I suppose that you could say the largest version of straight to the point might be an exception, but then you still have enough room to maneuver to make sure you can still get shots on the targets. They are not quick, 14 knots, so don't expect these things to escape anyone. They have 50 points of strength, which is interesting because it's a bit more than the 80 point Chong-Ju, which only has 40 points. The armor is exactly the same as the Chong-Ju, and instead of a machine gun, the Shmel carries the dual Type 2 M3M, which has definitely some good range against helicopters and airplanes. Rate of fire is also pretty good, but the accuracy is not that high. So what you use the Shmel main AA gun for, this naval autocannon, is to go after targets to stun them. Don't expect to kill them, but if you can stun a plane with this ship, which can operate as a picket ship, so the last line of defense, or the first line I suppose you could say, it's the ship that's the farthest away from your Sovremeni or your Udaloy. This thing can stun the plane, and then the Udaloy or the Sovremeni or any of your escort ships can take it down using a missile, because a stunned plane will not respond to missiles at all, or at least not as quick. Now, why should you pick the Chong-Ju over the Shmel? I don't know, really. I don't see any advantages of picking the Chong-Ju, because this thing carries maybe a little fewer rounds, but it also has more HE power. It has a better range, it has a slightly worse main gun, but you weren't going to use this thing anyway. The dual Type 2 M3Ms are better against air threats, a lot better than this medium machine gun. So I don't really see a use for the Chong-Ju. But if you have any useful pointers on that, please let me know, because I think that the Chong-Ju is in the game for a reason, I just haven't figured it out yet. Now the last ship in the coastal support is the Shantou, or the Shantao. I'm not entirely sure how I need to pronounce this. If you do know, please let me know in the comments. This is classed as a gunboat, and that's exactly what it is. You can see that here on the front it has one recoilless gun, which fires at a range of 1925 meters. Its accuracy is not that bad. It's 30%, 15% with a stabilizer. It does 12 AP power, and this means that combined with a decent speed of 19 knots, you can use these things to go up rivers and to take care of some of the threats around the river. Now don't expect these things to live for very long, because they got 40 points of strength but virtually no armor, or at least if you're fighting up against other units like tanks, autocannons, stuff like that up close, then the 2 armor on every side except the top is not going to protect you. So don't expect these things to just casually take down a tank, because they will not do that. On the other hand, you get a large number of these things in your deck, especially if you pick the lowest veterancy. And with that recoilless rifle, there is a good chance that if you use this thing the right way, so going after targets which have 12 AP power at the most, you're gonna do a lot more than 30 points of its own value. So you're going to quickly recoup this 30 points, making sure that you actually have an effective trade-off if this thing dies. You can, if you really have to, use a wave of Shantaus to take down a command ship. But command ships mainly outrun this gun, some of them by as much as 4 kilometers if you're looking at the Congo. The Lafayette also has a good range of 2.7 kilometers more than this unit. So ships like those, if they spot the Shantou, are going to take care of it very, very quickly. And this thing was meant as a gunboat and not an anti-capital ship. So keep that in mind, use it in such a role, and only use it in a role that it's not meant for, so to go after capital ships if you have no other choice. So that concludes this video. I know it's a bit short, but there's only 4 units to discuss. Next video we're going to have a look at the anti-ship planes for REDFOR, so I hope to see you next video. If you still have a question on any of these units, please let me know, and if you know what the Chong-Ju has that the Shmel doesn't, please let me know, because I'm eager to figure it out. I, by looking at the stats, can't see it. So if you figure it out, please let me know in the comment down below. Please give this video a like and share it with friends if you can help them with these videos, if you help them become a better wargame player. Thanks for watching. See you next video.